Hi, everyone. In their April 28th proposal presented by Mark Davis, the owner of the Oakland Raiders, to the Southern Nevada Tourism and Infrastructure Committee, the team combination of the Oakland Raiders, the Las Vegas Sands, and Majestic Realty put up a stadium financing plan that hides revenue from key stadium assets common to all NFL stadiums from the Nevada Committee. That's right. You heard that correctly. In the plan that was analyzed by the consultant to the Nevada Committee, Jeremy Grillo, and if I mispronounce Mr. Grillo's last name, please forgive me. On page 4 of that document, which is in my blog post and linked to, and also on the SNTIC website, sntic.org, under the meetings May 26th reports, that document, that PDF on page 4 has a list of sources and uses for the stadium. Under sources or revenues, the Raiders, Las Vegas Sands, Majestic Realty people say that the contributions break down as follows. First, and again, this is on page 4, it's right there in black and white. Public funding at $750 million. NFL PSLs, personal seat licenses, $110 million collected out of $200 million. NFL G4 loan, $200 million contribution. $100 million from the Oakland Raiders, and $240 million from a combination of debt equity provided by Las Vegas Sands. That's 5 revenue sources listed. So I decided to go back and look at what other sources and uses structures look like for recently completed NFL stadiums, state of the art. I first looked at Levi Stadium. The breakdown is as follows. $930 million serial bond issues from the Stadium Authority, which collects revenue from a variety of sources. Among them, and this is documented, a percentage of the naming rights agreement from Levi's, which is $200 million. They get a percentage of that. They get to the tune of $156 million of the $220 million deal. A percentage of parking revenues, luxury box, that's right, luxury box revenues, personal seat license revenues, a percentage of event revenues, and a percentage of sponsorship revenues. These are all common to NFL stadiums listed right there. Then we throw in the NFL's $200 million G4 loan and a $114 million public contribution from the city and county of Santa Clara, which is actually a collection of public funding resources from different areas. Like, for example, $42 million from redevelopment, another percentage from an increase in the hotel tax for the county, and so on. That totals $1,244 million. $1,244 million. Okay? But now consider that, right? In the Raiders, Las Vegas Sands, Majestic Realty example, no mention is made of naming rights or luxury box revenues or parking revenues. Meanwhile, in the document that Mr. Jeremy Grillo, the stadium consultant to the SNTIC, refers to in his presentation on May 26th, in that document is specifically listed the cost for parking structure. But no one from the Nevada committee bothered to ask, hey, if you have the cost for a parking structure there, where does the revenue from that parking structure go to? The Raiders? Al Capone's grave? Where does it go? No one bothered to ask that question. I looked at another stadium example, a stadium under construction that will be open next year, June 11th, soft opening. The Atlanta Falcons Mercedes-Benz Dome. In that example, we are looking at $850 million collected from the Atlanta Falcons and paid for in a series of private bonds, but consisting of percentage of luxury suites, naming rights, parking revenues, and basically the same list of primary revenue generators as for Levi Stadium, with one exception. Levi Stadium collects a ticket surcharge, whereas the Atlanta Falcons Stadium, to my knowledge and research to this point, does not. The city of Atlanta throws in a $200 million bond issue based off its hotel tax, and the NFL once again adds the $200 million G4 loan for a total of $1,250 million from the sources. Again, the same fact remains. We have parking, luxury suite, events revenues, and sponsorship revenues, and naming rights revenues, 5 revenue sources included in both the Levi Stadium example and in the Atlanta Mercedes-Benz Dome example that are not even listed in the Raiders example, but yet will be revenues collected from that Raiders stadium. The Raiders are not going to build a stadium anywhere that does not have a naming rights agreement attached to it. That's just not happening. That's just not happening. The Raiders are not going to build a stadium where a parking lot or building will be constructed and the Raiders aren't going to collect revenue from that source. The Raiders are not going to build a stadium with luxury suites and yet not collect money from the sale of luxury suites. And yet, those revenue generators are not listed. So, what would happen if we added them in? Well, according to my estimates, and I outlined this in detail in my blog post, at the minimum, the Raiders could be expected to collect about $300 million to a maximum of $600 or $700 million from the combination of those sources. What do they depend on? Well, such factors as the length of the bond issue. We're talking about a 30-year bond issue. It's less money than a 40-year bond issue. If we're talking about 165 luxury suites, that's less money than, say, 200 luxury suites. Then, of course, there's the cost of the luxury suites. So when you start looking at those variables, what the Raiders can expect to gain changes accordingly. But the bottom line is it's not listed in the Raiders' sources at all. But the Raiders turn around and say, we want $750 million from the Clark County hotel tax. And equally disturbing is that in the discussions about the Raiders Stadium proposal, the fact that these estimates are missing never came up as a question from anyone on the committee. And I'm not saying they're subterfuge, no. They were respectfully analyzing what they were presented, but not with an entirely critical eye. And it reflects the fact that Las Vegas is new to evaluating sports proposals. Whereas some other cities like Oakland are way not. This is terrible on Mark Davis' part. Las Vegas deserves an NFL team, but done the right way. If you add in the revenues that the Raiders are reasonably expected to get from a new stadium in Las Vegas, this is what the split should come out to look like. The public contribution at $300 million. That's right. The Raiders' contribution at $610 million, and the Las Vegas Sands contribution at $440 million, for a total $1.4 billion. That's a better balance than what's presented. Of course, it's not what Mark Davis wants, and of course, he's better off working with Ronnie Lott on a truly privately financed deal involving multiple banks that Mr. Lott has teamed up with in Oakland. Yes, you heard that correctly. But no, the SNTIC really has to be careful. They have to start asking hard questions, and they've got to really ask, where are those revenue estimates and why are they not in that proposal, and put them in there and revise the whole thing.